Let's go for it, Mark. Go for it.
It's the Murali End, you're the place to be. Analyzing players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we when mad it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we go represent. So tell a friend.
Welcome to the Murali End. My name's Mark Machado. I'm joined by Estelle Vaz, who's Devon, Sri Lanka's #1 journalist, and the Professor of Cricketology, Dominic Machado. This is an emergency podcast. Firstly, sorry for getting this out slightly later than planned. It's really difficult to coordinate all of us on a kind of what is a work evening in Sri Lanka, a work afternoon in London, and a work morning in on the East Coast of America, where Dom is. But thanks for bearing with us. We've had some absolutely horrific, sad, shocking news for us as Sri Lanka fans. Wanindu Hasaranga, our talisman, our wicket taker, our one-legged assassin, is not going to be able to hop through the rest of the tournament in the World Cup. This is the first and quite a huge stumbling block on our road to Ahmedabad. If you haven't come across the Murali End before, we talk about Sri Lankan cricket all the time, especially kind of after games. I suppose that's kind of almost what we're known for, is doing these big, long kind of lives and people come on and have a chat with us. Today's show is going to be more kind of talking therapy, I think, about how this has been allowed to happen, who Sri Lanka are going to replace him with, what that means for the actual 11, and, you know, plotting our path to Ahmedabad. Estelle, you're kind of closest to the action. You were at the game on Sunday, and, you know, in the vicinity. What's the kind of reaction been that you've heard in Colombo today?
I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, right? I think we spoke about it in the previous pod, the reaction pod as well. The fact that they persisted with him out in the field, to me, that was a clear sign that they felt like this is something serious. That's one. And his immediate reaction, right? It didn't take much for him to kind of stop. And there was just that look in his face like, oh no, this doesn't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think a lot of people are surprised by it. And if you're being fair, you know, hamstring injuries are injuries that recur, right? Once you've torn your hamstring once, it tends to come up again and again. Unfortunately, it's another big tournament where Sri Lanka have lost not one but two of their best, like their front line bowlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dom, Estelle said hamstring injuries are reoccurring. When we talk about Sri Lanka's issues with batting and finding the boundary, people in the comments, and if you're watching, get into the comments, tell us what you're thinking about Wanindu's injury. People always talk about the comments, Sri Lankans aren't big enough to find the boundary. I mean, we all know that's kind of not true, but, you know, there's a prevailing idea that we don't have the physique to create big hitters, right? I propose to you that it's quite possible that Sri Lankans are genetically predisposed to have kind of weak hamstrings, because now, for the second generation in a row, our kind of star player has been crippled by a dodgy hamstring. You know, we're just getting over the what ifs from Angelo Matthews' career, and now it's becoming again another whole lot of what ifs around Wanindu Hasaranga, right?
Yeah. It's a shame. I think it speaks to how do you manage players, right? I think thinking about the fact that Wanindu was brought in for the third ODI match against England, where he actually grabbed his hamstring, upon returning. The thought that he played those 3 games, before the series, and you just got to be a little bit careful. I thought they handled Chimera pretty well, like in terms of not getting him injured, but I think you got to think about Wanindu in that way as well. And I think the other question becomes, what is the relationship between player fitness and sort of national coaching? I think it's trickier in the franchise era where you're being sent all around the world and doing that stuff. But I think they need to find an infrastructure, whether it's through agreement with the different franchises you're playing for, about how to manage that. And I do think, as Estelle said, hamstring injuries are recurring injuries. In American football, there are certain players that, every year they've got a dodgy hamstring. But how do you manage that? How do you work through that? And certainly it shouldn't be I'm bowling a leg break and I tore my hamstring, because that speaks to something else, right? Like if he's running around in the field, diving to make a stop, or he's running between the wickets, that's that's a different thing, right? And I think thinking carefully with a player like Wanindu and how much value he has as a cricketer, or how do you preserve him? What benefits do you give him? What support do you give him in overcoming this issue? And we had Benura on, Mark. You talked about this. And I think you might be the best person to kind of reflect on what that support is actually like.
So there's a Benura interview on the Cricket Smash channel that I did a few weeks ago. Benura Fernando is, someone who made his debut at age 19 or 20, I can't quite remember. Left arm pace bowler, and kind of a few years after he makes his debut, like kind of all professional sports men and women, he gets an injury, and it kind of becomes the beginning of kind of whole line of injuries. In fact, Estelle, that you were in Australia at the game when he got injured against Australia, right? And he has to come off. And he said that in the interview, he said that was a turning point for his career, because that was the moment he realised he had to go away and find the solution. He had to kind of leave the bosom of SLC and figure out how best it was going to be rehabilitated, and he was going to get back to full fitness. He's recently been in and out of the squads. He had an incredible series in the BPL, the Bangladesh Premier League, and he was in the winning side and picked up loads of wickets for that. And he kind of feels now that he's got to a stage where he's kind of understands his body and kind of reacts to it. One of the things that does come across from that interview is how little support the players seem to get when they get injured. Now, if you watch a Sri Lankan cricket game with the Sri Lankan team in Sri Lanka, then no doubt you have seen footage of players in nice looking swimming pools. Benura is one of the players that in the VT. And, SLC are very proud of all the facilities that they've created for our best boys and girls. However, it just feels to me that we've turned up yet again at another tournament. That Benura tournament I'm talking about was what, 2022?
Yeah.
2022. And it feels like this is yet another tournament. I feel like at this point in time, every single tournament, because I think you can throw in Isham Malenga and you can say it's unfortunate what happened to Isham Malenga because it's a shoulder injury and he doesn't necessarily, as far as I'm aware, have a history of shoulder injuries. But we are coming into this tournament, and after the first game, 2 of our 15, 16 man squad are injured, and it's again within our bowling unit. And you've got to say, why does this keep happening? Who do you blame? Do you blame the players themselves? Do you blame the coaches and management for not managing them? We all know Wanindu spent a lot of time. He didn't play much of that ODI series at all, just the final game. Do we add on top of all that, we know at some point he went over to Singapore for a few days to rehab and to get treatment as well, right? We've seen the pictures of him in hospital beds, getting treatment and stuff like that all around the world. The whole point of all of that was when you have your home World Cups, your best players are not injured. It just appears to me, and Esther, I'd love to know what you think about this, that there doesn't appear to be somebody who's got a master plan somewhere in Sri Lanka cricket to go, how do we make sure that the morning of a game, our best players are in the best possible condition for that game? Because at the moment, as Dom said, there's just no way you should be getting as many injuries as Wanindu Hasaranga gets as a leg spinner, right? And he's getting them bowling. He's not getting them batting. I know that when he was batting for B Love Candy a few years ago, That did happen while he was batting, but it's like, come on, I can't be the only one who sees this. Me and Dom and Esty and the Murali End just can't be the only person who sees this. You can go back all the way through the whole back catalogue of Murali Ends to every single World Cup tournament, and it's our players are injured. Why does this keep happening? Esty.
Yeah, that's the most frustrating part about it, right? It's that come the World Cup, once again, you're missing multiple players from who would have made your best 11. And this has been happening again and again and again in every tournament that we play. So as you said, like, while, like, from my point of view, I see it as very, like, I see these injuries as very unfortunate. As I mentioned, hamstring injuries are recurring, and there's actually a comment that this is the other leg, right? And that happens when you do put more effort onto the other leg, and that's what used to happen to Angelo as well, right? So you strain your right hamstring, and then in your recovery, you're putting more weight on your left, you strain it as well, right? So that's a natural thing that happens. But at the same time, as you said, because we're having so many injuries in major tournaments, you have to ask the question about what is being done, right? What is the plan? Is there a plan? Is it being managed in a way that there is some kind of goal or some kind of itinerary or plan put together that, okay, at this point, these two players are going to be fit. These two players, we're going to play them like this, and this is when they're going to be available to us, things like that. Because if you look at Wanindu, you can't say he's been overworked. No, you can't look at him, his game time, and say, oh, they should have rested him here, they shouldn't have played him here, they shouldn't have done this, right? He's got, like, he hasn't been playing every game either. Similarly, like, I think it's important you brought up Chamira. Like, he was getting injured a lot, and then he had that long stint off. And since coming back from that, God, I hope I don't jinx it, because we can't afford to lose Chamira. But, like, since that time where he got into the IPL, he's had a regular run without, any issues, right? So I think, to be honest, these guys get paid a lot of money, right? I think sometimes, while the responsibility is on your employer, maybe they need to take the route that Binura did and take it into their own hands and try to get something done. Because as a player, I can only assume how frustrating it is for Wanindu, right? He's the highest wicket taker for Sri Lanka in World Cups.
Yeah.
In the last two editions, I believe he's been the highest wicket taker overall, right? I know that's because Sri Lanka played the preliminary rounds. But as a player, it must be incredibly frustrating, because you come to these World Cups, particularly someone like Wanindu, knowing that, like, this is your time to shine, right? This is the stage where you make an impact, and employment opportunities come because of tournaments like this, right? So I feel like, if SLC doesn't or if players feel like SLC doesn't have a plan, or doesn't really have any foresight into how they want to go about rehab and stuff, then players have to take it into their own hands, because at the end of the day, they are the major losers out of this, right?
Yeah. And I think, the other thing is, Wanindu does have those resources. He's connected with cricketers throughout the globe who have support systems. He's connected with teams that have support systems in multiple places. Even, Estelle, I think another example in addition to Chamira is Patarana. Again, fingers crossed, we're not jinxing anything, but you see the support system, and this might not, and I'm not just only talking about injuries, but fitness, action, all that stuff. He has developed something else around him, right? And so when he comes back into the squad, right, even though SLC isn't necessarily giving him the chances, right, hasn't given him the chances, he has improved. He's changed the way that he's playing, and he's kind of figured out his game. Potham is another example, right? He, again, fingers crossed, has persistent back issues, right? But it seems like he's worked and managed those as well. So I do think some of this falls on the player. I think it falls on and getting your body right, knowing your body well enough. I think that's another part, is like, do you know when your body's ready to go, when it feels fit, when it feels ready? And, to be fair, like we asked a lot of Wanindu, right? And we saw what a special player he was on one leg. He was able to mow down that Ireland batting lineup. So he will be sorely missed.
It's just so frustrating, isn't it? It's just so frustrating. There's a couple of great comments come in. Delaney has said, "Sorry, Dom, I blocked you out when I bring the comments on."
No, it's
Dom is
okay.
still there. Sorry to say this, not trying to sound auspicious, but ever since the selection committee changed, lots of controllable factors and uncontrollable factors have royally gone wrong. It's we should get into that comment a little bit. I'm just taking it off because I want to see your lovely face, Dominic. So I think the thing that has gone wrong since the selection committee has come in, the new selection committee, is the actual composition of the squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to bring this comment up here from Sanuda. SL squad got exposed, 3 extra batters and no backup spinner. We could have easily dropped Janeth and bring Dushan in. Then we could use Wani in Super 8. Pool management. There's like 2 things about this. Is I kind of agree with all of it. I just also think though that there was just no chance that Wanindu was never going to play.
Yeah, apparently he's out for 4 weeks. And see, that's the thing which like people also have to see, is that like hamstring injury is not going to get better in 3 days, 4 days a week, right? There's a long rehab involved. So although I agree with him about the squad, where is the extra spinner? It makes no sense. So Wanindu would probably not be fit anyway for the Super 8s.
But we can explain this. We can explain the squad composition, right, Don? Because we know that until some point between losing that final T20 against England and starting the Island series, the plan was always 7-4, and then the plan becomes 6-5.
And now it looks even worse, right? Because it's like, well, what are you going to do now, right? You can't. I think it would be a very bad idea to go back to 7-4 without Wanindu, because he's the part of the reason that makes it possible, because you sneak in a little bit of extra batting through him. So I think, you've got it's a really tricky situation. It showed a lot of the problems. I'm glad they went to 6-5. I'm glad whoever convinced them did that. And I think going 6-5 for this match was a huge plus, because one, it makes you think, if they had gone 7-4 and you lose a bowler like this, you're in big trouble. They might have lost that game against Ireland, right? If you don't have someone that you should, that you can trust to bowl. I think it also magnifies the role that Dawson is going to play. I think especially in a 6-5, he's going to have to bowl more of those overs. Interesting note. Thaw Roth says Pawan as a leg spinner. Actually, they were bowling Jonathan Lianage as an off spinner today. They were giving him a shot in the net. So who knows? Maybe Dushan Hemantha, who's been brought into the squad, won't play, but we're going to see Jonathan Lianage play as a all-rounder. But I really hope not.
I just feel like, and this is no shade of Hemantha, and I'd love to know what you think about this, Estelle. But I mean, it's so obvious that you've just got to pick Jeffrey Van der Sey, because the thing that instead of Hemantha, because I think the thing that or Veerskant, right? I'm a big fan of his, but like the one thing that about Wanindu Hasaranga is that he's the guy you chuck the ball to when you need a wicket, right? He did that against Ireland. When we're playing ODI cricket against England a few weeks ago, who's the guy they're chucking the ball to when they need a wicket? It's Vanders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too angry to look at data, and I'm emotionally led. So maybe there's data that suggests like Jeffrey Van der Sey isn't gonna solve. It's just not as effective in T20 cricket. It's just that it feels to me like he's playing that role in other places, And actually, the replacement for Wanindu Hasaranga is already in the squad. He's already in the 11. It's Walalage. So you just need to you don't need to, like, Waddy, if he ever gets runs, it's a bonus. So don't worry about that. Just worry about the wickets. And that's why, like, Hamantha could look. I really want Hamantha to be the success. There's, history is littered with players who've come in their 11th amateur squad and driven their team to finals and won stuff with them. I don't think, Toto Scalacci was in the squad when Italy won the World Cup way back in the 80s, right? So look, there is people, like, there is stories that this could happen. If Hamantha happens to be the man that gets set, that goes on a run, is on fire, and gets us to Ahmedabad, then I'll be the happiest Sri Lankan in the world, right? But I think if I look at the stats, he's not as good. It doesn't look to me like he's going to be as effective as other options, and that they've still led into this idea that Wanindu's going to offer a lot with the bat. Am I? Tell me, I'm misreading this. There's something I don't understand here.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Mark. I think if you look at the two, right, you compare one. If you look at the three, Wanindu, Dushan Hemantha, and Jeffrey Van der Sey, as you said, yes, Wanindu is the one who allowed Sri Lanka to go with that 6-5 combination because he gives you that extra bit of batting, right? Him and Dunit, who they have most recently gone to, right? Because of their batting, you're allowed to go with that, it gives you that flexibility. Has Dushan Hemantha shown us anything in his international career which would suggest that he can do anything, like 50% of what Wanindu offers? Has he shown that capability? I don't think so. So I think with the loss of Wanindu, Sri Lanka are going to have to now go back to 7-4, where they have Jeffrey, Mahesh, and the two quicks, and then maybe they switch around Dunit or something happens there. But as you said, Wanindu's the most important attribute is the fact that he can take wickets. He's your wicket-taking bowler. And again, the question is, has Dushan Hemantha shown us in any capacity that he can match that up to even 50%? I don't think he has. So no matter how good a fielder he is, no matter how good utility option he is, he does not fulfill any of the criteria that you like, the importance you place on one in those roles, right? So then you might as well fulfill one of them, which is, okay, you don't have someone who can bat like him. You have someone who can maybe take wickets at the same frequency or nearly the same frequency as him in Jeffrey Van der Sey, right? So I feel like it's almost a no-brainer there. But Sri Lanka have tended to always, whether it's Test cricket, ODI cricket, or T20 cricket, opt for the guy who offers a little bit with the bat. So not surprised, but disappointed that, like, they have gone for a more conservative option than giving Van der Sey an opportunity.
Not surprised, but disappointed. Sorry, Dom. I'm just gonna say that is the coldest reaction, isn't it? It's like that is me coming home from school with no academic, like, standards.
With one B on his report card.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Dom.
No, so I don't know. I tend to disagree a little bit. Okay, and hear me out. The Dushan Hemantha of 2023, I think, totally fits Estelle's description. Doesn't really give you anything. I think that, okay, so against Zimbabwe, Dushan Hemantha has bowled well. He took 3 wickets in one match against them in a Sri Lanka win against them. He took 1 for 28 in another one. So he has taken wickets at the international level in the last 6 months, okay? And it seemed like he was turning the ball more than he had previously. I think these pitches are going to be fairly conducive to that, because I think if you were to say Dushan Hemantha has strike capabilities, it would be based on the evidence in Sri Lanka. Outside of Sri Lanka, I'm not sure about, right? I think you would definitely prefer, like, if you're playing in India, you definitely prefer Van der Sey, right? But in Sri Lanka, on Sri Lankan wickets, I think the difference between Hemantha and Van der Sey is smaller than we think in terms of bowling. I also think that he does give you something with the bat. He strikes at 125, which is not too bad. And I think coming in at 8, he's hit 56s in his T20 career, so he's someone who can clear the boundary. I think he's a gun fielder as well, and this might be one of the best fielding sides that Sri Lanka has had in a long time. Between him, Dawson, Kamil Mishara, Kamindu Mendes, and Duneth Walalage, you're going to save some runs in that way. I also think you don't need to fully replace Wanindu. I think you're going to have 6 bowling options with Dawson, 6 decent bowling options, right? And so it gives you the flexibility to, okay, Matisha Patirana and Dushmantha Chamira, neither of them bowled the full quota of overs last time. So you don't need 4 overs every single match from him. You need to see the conditions. You need to play the conditions. But if you're going to Vandersay, you'd have to bowl him 4 overs, because otherwise his spot in the team is not as important, I think. But so I think he's shown capability. He can hit. He can field. And I think with the 6 real bowling options, you have the ability to move things up and down the lineup. I do think that Vandersay has, I just think that he has talent. He has shown that he can take wickets, but at the T20 level, he's not been as good as he has been at the ODI level. I think also there's the, he's kind of like Wanindu in the sense that you can tee him up, so you can go after him if you want. So maybe that's also part of the equation. So I'm curious. I think it means we're going to lean a little bit more into Chamira and Patirana as strike bowlers, and rely on them a bit more. But we can't replace Wanindu. But I think Dushan Hemantha has a fair chance of contributing to this team and potentially providing value that's at least equal to Vandersay, if not more.
So
I just want to 1 second just bring up this comment, which I think is fair as well, right? I think it's unfair for us as fans to expect Dushan to provide us the same thing that Wanindu would do simply because he hasn't been given enough of a run to be ready for that role. It's fair. I think that's a fair comment. But if you look at international cricket, when you have players like Wanindu in the team, no one second to him is going to get that opportunity to get a steady run in the team. So Vandersay's never got it. Dushan's never going to get it until Wanindu is gone. Vyaskanth isn't going to get it either until there is some proper opening there, right? Because it's unlike an off spinner where you would see teams playing 2 off spinners in a side. You hardly ever see 2 leg spinners being played, right? So while I understand the sentiment behind that, it is simply something that we have to accept is not going to happen. Unless he has an extended period of time where he's out, you're not going to get someone else being given that long rope. So you have to have, I think Jeffrey mentioned it once before when he came in, was it against India when he got wickets, where he said he has had to accept that he's going to get 1 game in every 5 games.
Yeah.
And in that 1 game, he has to come in and perform. So I think that mentality, players like Dushan, Jeffrey, people who are in the wings behind these star players, they have to just, they have to accept, because it's not going to change anytime soon.
Yep.
Just going back to Hemantha's role on the side, or whoever ends up replacing Wani in their 11, I suppose if you look at the team, and actually I'm going to bring the team up there because obviously I actually picked the team.
What are you sending this week?
Yeah, I was going to say shadow selector.
I'm just going to wait to see what after this chat that I'll send over my team. So this is a team that I picked last week. I picked up the 4th of February, so almost a week ago, and it actually ended up playing on Sunday, surprisingly. If you look at the obviously team should have played ahead of Manishanka. Manishanka's not even in the squad. I think at that point we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah. So if you look at it, 8, 9, 10, 11 there, they should in theory still. Sorry, I'm lied. 9, 10, 11 and Walalage should all be there in theory. And for me, they're all kind of frontline bowlers, right? So that's 16 overs. And then you're kind of you need to get 4 overs from between Sharnika, Kusal, not Kaminti Mendes and Pavan Naika, right? And I'm also told that is it
Kamil.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
can
I
bowl
don't know
like-
why we haven't really seen him, but he's a decent spinner as well. Like, I mean, it's Sri
He played
Lankan
one
domestic
game recently,
pitchers,
right?
I understand, but he can bowl a bit of off spin.
Yeah, he one of those games he bowled. I'm trying to remember which one, but yeah, he has bowled 1 over each in ODIs and T20s.
Yeah,
at
there's
the international level.
yeah, so in theory, to get those other 4 overs, and this is without whoever places 1E, you've got Sharnika, Kamindu, Pavan, and Kamil. Like, maybe there's an argument that Kamindu should be allowed to bowl 8 overs because he can bowl with both arms, but that's for a different podcast.
Do we want him to bowl 8 overs though?
No.
Well, if he's having a good day, but you kind of think that there's kind of enough options there, right? I mean, there'll be very few other teams in the world that are going in to games thinking, right, we've got 9 people who could bowl here.
But the problem, I think, is that like as T20 cricket has progressed, like we're seeing that part-timers aren't having that much of
They're getting pushed
success
out,
as they
aren't they?
used to, right? Like now, if we look at like Sri Lanka's golden era and
Yeah.
that type of time, the success came from the fact that the top 5 you always had at least 2 bowling options. Like you had your Tilak Ratna Dilshans or your Sana Jasuryas. You had like 2 solid options up the top of the order. But I think as time has gone by and like run scoring has gotten so quick, like even the single over that you bowl off a part-timer is a risk, right?
Yeah.
And even like sometimes even your frontline bowlers or bowlers that you see as like 3/4 bowlers are getting hit. I think today Glenn Phillips went for 20 something in one of his overs as well, and he's a decent off spinner, right? He's a decent off spinner. So that's where the problem lies, I think, for me. Yes, we've got options, but like unless you've got another team like really with their backs against the wall and they're not looking to be that aggressive, it's always a risk bowling like a Kamindu or a Pavan or a Kamil.
Yeah, and I think that's why, to me, Hemantha comes into the squad, because then you have 6 real bowlers you can divvy 20 overs between, and you don't have to dip into those things. I think the change. So looking at the 11, I would say the change I'd make is Hemantha in for Hasaranga, and people may get on me for this, but I really think Sri Lanka should be in this squad. I think in terms of clearing the boundary without Wanindu out, you need someone who can do that. So I'd be tempted to play him at 4.
You drop a youngster like Pavan for Charith.
But Charith, I mean, look, all I'm saying,
you're really resting your play to the shadow selection committee here.
all I'm saying here, right, is we saw how he got out.
Yeah.
That's about as ugly of a dismissal as we're going to see, right? I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think in terms of our young guns, he's even our best 23 and under T20 batter. I think he needs more time to develop his attacking game against spin and pace. And I think Sri Lanka bats better in the top 4. He's someone who can clear the boundary, especially in the later overs against pace. He's shown a capability for doing that. He's the captain of our ODI squad. I think he should be in. I think he also gives you a little something with the ball too, in terms of guys who can actually bowl and have shown that they can bowl at the international level. He's like at the low end of it, but he's someone, if you had to give an over to on an RPS dust bowl, you wouldn't feel too terrible.
Dishra Boy has said, my issues with Kamil, he needs to score big runs. I'll be honest, right? I don't think you want to look at some point. SLC is going to SLC, and selectors are going to get all up into both Kamal Mishra and Pavan Ratnayaka's face, and they're going to be all over the place. I think in that 11, I mean, you can go through it. There's not a single player apart from maybe Wani who hasn't been dropped for kind of an unexplainable reason at some point in their career. So we know at some point that will happen, and I just kind of feel like you want to protect those two youngsters, right? Kamal Mishra, kind of, he came to the side a few years ago. They took one look at him, and then he was out for 2-3 years in the wilderness. And Jesus only spent 40 days in the wilderness. Sri Lankan players spend years and years, right? Often go back and forth in the wilderness. And need a kind of miracle to kind of get back in. But I think, we've talked so much on Murali End about how winning cricket matches and being good enough to play and being effective on the international level is as much a mentality as it is for anything else. And I kind of feel the last 6 months of Sri Lanka has definitely been the toughest of his career, but it's like they are putting him through the meat grinder right now. And actually, there's these two youngsters in the side, and Pavan, you can look at the way he got out, and yeah, that is absolutely abysmal. But also, he tried to get moving. He tried to do something there. I get him to the wrong place, and it was nuts. But I also think, like, we can't be hawkish on strike rate and also hawkish on not taking risks.
Well, yes, but I think, one, career-wise, Charath's strike rate is much better than Pavan's. And I think he just has more options. I think it's a lot of pressure to put on Pavan at number 4. And I think you can tell. I think I'm going to be curious where they put Dunith. I wouldn't be surprised if they bump him up a little bit to 4. But yeah, so as KZ Plays says, Asalanka averages 22 in T20Is and is striking at 120. Pawan averages 16 and is striking at 115. I mean, it's a small sample size. It's not fair. Yeah. But I do think that in terms of, if you're playing at the RPS, it's really hard to clear boundaries. We should talk about this too, right? Like, people are putting up 6 hitting data, but it's an 85-meter hit. Like, I was looking at some of the Indian pitches. They're like 65, 70-meter hits. So it's very different. A ball that gets you out at the Premadasa is going for 6.
It's all part of the plan. When we get to Ahmedabad, Dom, it's going to be like, well, right. Hey, look at the bad.
But this is the problem, because it trains our players not to play those shots. Like, it's a doubly reinforcing. It's hard to do it, and therefore they're not practicing doing it. So that's part of my struggle with it, is that, like, it's doubly reinforcing, and it just shows, like, we were blasting them during that innings, but it actually turned out that Kusal playing it slow was the best thing that they could do to get a competitive score on that ground.
Kulanu has said, yes, Wanindu is a good all-rounder, but primarily a bowler. Let's replace a bowler with a bowler. Will Alagay and Shardik have to step up with the bat? I think, looking at the kind of second part of that, I think that's the big thing here, right? It's like, all right, you've lost your star boy, but we still battle on, right? We've still got, there is still a World Cup out there. There's still all to play for. We've got points to the board already. We probably need 2 more wins from the next 3, and we're next. That's an awful way to think about it, because I want us to get into the Super 8s on good form with it. Get as many wins as we possibly can. It kind of feels, especially with the next game being Oman, it should feel, look, even with Wanindu Hasaranga, we should have enough to beat. Without him, we should have enough to beat Oman, right? These players, they're all professional players. They'll all be out there trying to hustle for franchise contracts. All gone around the world and done it in franchise contracts, with franchise contracts. Ronaldo in, Kamindu out, says Delanta. He's not happy in Saudi Arabia, so maybe, but maybe what Ronaldo Classic. He's kind of got more of the shape of Wanindu Hasaranga without trying to body shame anyone. I have absolutely no right to body shame anyone, but you know the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, that like we should still have enough in the tank, right? Patam and Kissel.
I mean, if we don't, then that's a massive. I mean, that would be, if we don't have enough to beat Oman, right? Then the problem's not Wanindu, right? There's obviously some other big problem out there because given the amount of cricket that Sri Lanka play, the amount of resources they have at hand, they should be able to beat a team like Oman. And I think they go in as favorites, of course. But yeah, as you said, like without Wanindu, that bowling attack should still be comfortable against the Omani batters. I watched them in the 2 warm-ups they played in Colombo. They do have dangerous batters who can take on the bowling and can score quickly. But I mean, you know, you can't have a team like Sri Lanka with the resources they have at hand losing to a team like Oman.
Yeah, I mean, 3 of those bowlers are still IPL bowlers, right? Dushmantha Chamira, Matisha Patirana, and not this year, but in previous year, who's Mahesh, right? That is serious quality. I mean, it's going to be tough facing the pace that Patirana has been bringing. He looks $1 million. So I'm excited to see how they do, and I think this is again a chance for this team to bubble up. You know, this adversity can be good for them, right? They can say, this is, you know, all we have is ourselves. We've got to play hard. We've got to take advantage of the talent and the opportunities that I have. I think that is one thing that stood out to me in the last match was that they fought. We've seen them lose games from those positions many times, but they fought hard and they backed themselves and they won. And I think that will do this team a lot of good.
Guys, just one thing to also point out is, since Dom spoke about Asalanka, KJP is another option. Like, I mean, at this point, I think in terms of form, like I don't think there's much separating a Pavan, Charit or KJP. So you have to look at like what do you need done in that role, and who can provide that. So I feel like there's not much to choose between the 3, right?
Yeah.
In terms of fielding, Pavan is going to give you much more than the other 2. He's going to save runs for you on the boundary. He's going to give you some good efforts. But in terms of batting, what do they want from that number 4 batter? Or if they want to push Kamindu up and bring whoever is coming into number 5, what do they want from that batter? And who of those 3 can get that job done?
Do we not think, though, that Pavan plays spin best of those 3 options?
Have you seen enough of him to say that?
So I think maybe you could say
there's magic in those feet, that's for sure.
Well, but this is the thing. I think in one-day cricket, you can make the argument for him at 4 because he's able to tick strike over. When you need to be looking for boundaries, I think both Charith and Kusal Pereira are better boundary hitters. I think actually in terms of strike rate against spin, Kusal Pereira has the best strike rate out of anyone in the squad. It's about 130, 140 because he has a range of shots. He can go reverse sweep. Like you saw what Kamindu did against spin, regular sweep, reverse sweep, slog sweep. He's got a bunch of, he can come down the track. I think Charith at his best can do all those things, whether he's in form or not. I can't say, but that to me is what I would say the difference is the number of options. Like I haven't seen Pawan really play a sweep in the time we played, which is quite rare given the circumstances.
Lots of debate in the comment section about KJP coming into the side, and but there seems to be a bit of consensus for it. Guys, should we kind of wrap that up today? We'll be back after the game on Thursday. It's a very early start for some of us that day. I think if we get the win, Dominic will be Googling to see if there's direct flights from Boston to Ahmedabad. All I will say is get those Indian visa applications in early. look, it's a setback. We knew this road wasn't going to be smooth sailing all the
Mhm.
way. That is not what it is like for any side, let alone a Sri Lankan team. We've been the Murali End. Please do join our WhatsApp channel. I'll put the link in the notes now. Oh, wait, because I don't have it at hand. It's further up the comment section or it's in the description. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Tell all your friends about Murali End. We talk about Sri Lankan cricket in English all the time. And we'll be back on Thursday. See you all then. Bye.
It's the Murali End, you're the place to be. Analyzing players in the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we when mad it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we go represent. Go tell a friend.